All right, and what is up, guys? We are back for another week of the Fight Forecast. Back breaking down UFC 250, Nunez versus Spencer. If you watched us last week, thank you for that. We appreciate that. First off, I just want to tip my hat to for that Burns pick. I was not expecting that at all, and he did pull that through. And also, I got to toot my own horn a little bit for that plus 1,000 prop bet for Gutierrez via TKO/KO that I called on the podcast. So that's the type of stuff that we're bringing to these people, to the fans. These type of picks, and hopefully they watched and followed and made some money off of it, like I know we both did. So.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully get some more good advice going for him for the next card going up here. We got a pay-per-view event, so big money. I guess it's the first DraftKings MMA Millie Maker, right? $25 tickets.
Yeah. I'm personally not playing it in myself. I tried to win a couple tickets and some qualifiers and stuff like that, and just wasn't able to. But I'm gonna stick to the smaller GPPs like I normally do. But yeah, they're doing a huge GPP this card, which surprises me a little bit because it's honestly not the greatest card in the world. It's not horrible, but when it comes down to it, fight by fight, it's not the greatest. But it's good to see that they're doing some bigger GPPs and bigger money, and hopefully we can help some people and make some money ourselves as well.
For sure.
So the first fight that we got here, we got Evan Dunham versus Herbert Burns. I'll kick it off to you, and what are you thinking about this fight?
Oh, I guess I'll let you take one guess here. I'm gonna go Herbert Burns. Herbert Burns, the older brother of Gilbert Durino Burns, likely by submission. I looked this afternoon after I got out of welding school, and it looked like the prop hadn't dropped quite yet. But if it does, let's see. I'll double check here real quick, see if we have anything out for it. Oh, yeah, it looks like they've got them all. They've got them all dropped. What's that at here? Burns by sub plus 245. Yeah, I'm gonna jump all over that. I'll jump on that for. I'll probably do a unit on Burns, at least a unit on Burns by sub, and possibly also a unit by Burns decision just to kind of hedge it a little.
Yeah, looking at it, I'm exactly with you. I think Burns easily dominates this fight. I don't really see an avenue that he loses this fight. I just think Evan Dunham, he hasn't, he's over the hill. He's a bigger name, but people have heard of him, but he's kind of past his prime. He's lost the last couple fights by knockout. Last two fights by knockout, actually. So that was actually the prop that I was personally looking at. I don't know if I'll play it, but if I did play a prop on it, I think I would honestly go Burns via TKO/KO at plus 300. Now he doesn't have the best knockout power, but Dunham has shown that his chin is just not very good, and the gym that Burns trains at, they've trained some pretty heavy hitters, and so I wouldn't be surprised if he caught him. I personally will have Burns in a couple GPPs as well as parlays. I think he easily wins this fight in a negative 225. That's something that you can easily lock into a parlay and not really have to worry about it, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on that one. And I don't disagree with the TKO KO prop bet either. He showed in the last fight he had hands and was willing to throw them for sure. So another complete mixed martial artist, and I'd call him probably one of the locks of the night as well. I only made one DK lineup so far, and he's in it. So
Yeah, I've only made my cash lineup so far. I don't think he's in the cash lineup, but I still have to tinker with it a little bit, just because I was trying to find a way to get Nunez into the lineup with an underdog that I liked, and I just couldn't honestly find a way to get her in a lineup with an underdog that I thought had a chance. But I mean, we still got time to tinker with it a little bit and try to find a better thing. I admittedly took Gutierrez out of my cash lineup at the last
Oh
second
man,
last week, so maybe I shouldn't tinker with it. Maybe I should just leave it be. But
that's rough. That's one of those situations where I'll typically just make another lineup. You know what I mean? Because I'd hate to have that. And when you were that one drafted guy off from changing it right before the event or whatever. I just try to
yeah,
fight off the nerves and let it ride.
yeah.
Make sure I
I
get my
mean,
gut pick and my late,
yeah.
my end of the week pick, and then usually kind of a hybrid of my gut pick slash, the general consensus. If there's anything that stands way out from my gut picks, I'll kind of make a third pick that's like the general consensus slash my gut picks.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And that's the thing. I was on Gutierrez all week.
You were
Looking at the card, I was on him all week, and just for whatever reason, at the last second, looking at my lineup, I said, I don't know. I guess I'll change it to this one thing, and I can't remember exactly what I changed it to, but whatever I changed it to didn't work because I didn't end up cashing on cash games. But it is what it is, and we'll make that money back this card.
for
So.
sure.
So the second fight we got here is Alonzo Menafield versus Devin Clark. You know, I'm back and forth on this fight. Menafield has shown that he is an absolute monster when it comes to striking, and he can just knock people's heads off. But I'm worried that Devin Clark can get the takedown and maybe win this by decision. Menafield hasn't really shown anything outside of being able to knock people's heads off. And, Clark averages over 3 takedowns per fight. So, I'm a little bit worried. At this point in time, I do have Menafield in my lineup, and I do like Menafield negative 222. But I think the argument can be made for Clark. If he does win, it's going to be by decision. I don't see him knocking Menafield out. I don't see him submitting Menafield. So if you do want to back Clark, I think Clark by decision at plus 345 is the way to go. I personally wouldn't back Clark myself, but I can understand if you make that argument to want to do that. So I think Menafield is more so a DraftKings play, honestly, than a betting play. But if I had to bet the fight, I would probably go with Menafield negative 222. I just wouldn't, put more than a unit on it, probably.
Yeah, I'm pretty well right there with you on all that. Initially on Tapology, which I kind of keep as like my official picks or whatever. I log everything. I had a gut pick. First thinking about the fight, I had Alonzo Menafield KO TKO round 1 because of it was a couple names on Clark's record that had also kind of gotten the best of him. Guys like Ryan Spann, guillotine choke, Alexander Rakic, but Rakic was kind of on a burner then, spinning back fist and punches. Alex Nicholson,
Yeah.
back in 2016, took him out in round 1.
Yeah, that was the fight that I looked at, honestly, was the Alex Nicholson fight, which kind of made me a little bit leery of Clark, just due to the fact that, no offense to Alex Nicholson, but he sucks as a fighter. Like,
Yeah,
he's not a good fighter, but, the fact that he could knock out Clark, that made me a little bit leery of, if he can knock out Clark, what is Menafield, who is just an absolute monster, going to do to Clark?
right. And going to the decision with other guys that kind of have that sort of mass and build that Menafield do. At worst case scenario, Menafield on the bottom getting wrestled and not being able to get up for long periods of time between the rounds. He's got the kind of build, kind of like guys like Darko Stozic, who have gotten decision wins over Clark, Mike Rodriguez, and then or I'm sorry, those are guys Clark had beaten. But regardless, the fight's gone to the decision. You know what I mean? Guy said he wasn't able to take out
Yeah.
Daquan Townsend. Well, there's an even better example there. You know, Daquan Townsend made it to decision with Clark. So at worst case scenario, like I said, Menafield gets caught by a takedown or two, and then loses some time to the clock / points on DraftKings to the clock. Something to consider if you're rostering in DraftKings. I was just looking at the prop for fight goes to decision plus 195. Totally possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. Uh, I mean, personally, I think if it goes to decision, Clark wins. I think Menafield is more the type of fighter that he's either going to knock him out or he's going to lose. I don't think he's really a point fighter. I think if it does go to the decision, it's because Clark was somehow able to get him to the ground. And, you know, that he's, can he keep him on the ground? I guess is the question. But, even if he can't, he averages 3 takedowns a fight. So, what's to say he doesn't turn that to 4 or 5 and, he just grinds out a victory. So, I mean, personally, I wouldn't bet that. If I was going to bet something like that, I think I would bet Clark via decision just because I think that's the only way that it actually gets to the decision is if Clark wins.
For sure. Probably won't get much of a bet for me. And honestly, if I do any DraftKings or FanDuel play on it, I'll probably do like one lineup of Menafield and probably leave the fight alone. I don't see it scoring a crazy high or anything like that. Like I said, with the kind of hit or miss of Clark's record and Menafield still being a little unproven and new, it's not something that I'd recommend anyone invest heavily in. A couple little quarter unit stabs or something like that at a prop you like, maybe, but.
Yeah, I think, let me double check. I think I have Menafield in my cash lineup at this point in time. Just pulling it up right now. No, actually, I took. No, I do have Menafield. Yeah, so at this point in time, I do have Menafield in my cash lineup, just because I think he will score the knockout. And compared to his salary, I didn't really like anyone else around his salary point, and we can get to that later. But he kind of fit best in the cash lineup with what I saw, but that can always change. And he was one of the ones that I was going back and forth on, like, do I want him in there? Do I not want him in there? And he just the lineups that I could make without him in there, I felt this lineup was a little bit better. But I wasn't in love with the lineup. Let's put it that way.
Right.
The next fight that we got here is one that I absolutely will be completely fading. I think this is going to be a boring fight. I don't see me rostering really anyone in this fight. But we got Yeser Formega versus Alex Perez. So I'll kick this one to you, and then you can let me know what you're thinking. And I mean, then I'll probably make fun of the fight.
Yeah. I don't have any strong reads on this. Obviously, Hussier Formica's always got a chance at a submission. He's a legit BJJ contender, regardless of his age. He's the kind of guy, and that being somewhat of a defensive or offensive, it depends on who you talk to. But that sort of art where you can take it into a defensive realm easily for an older guy, it's a good forte to have, BJJ, to keep you in there for the longer fight years or whatever. But, however, my pick is probably going to be I'm probably going to pick Perez by decision here. I think he's got what it takes to stay in there long enough. I don't think Hussier Formiga's got what it takes with the hands to put him out. And with the hands, Perez is always a TKO threat. So, like I said, I think he's got what it takes to stay standing long enough. And if he does get taken down, we've seen that he's got the stand-up game, the wrestling defense to work his way to the fence, get back up to the feet. So that's probably going to be my official pick there. Be Perez by decision. Might not extremely confident. Like I said, a guy like Hussein Formiga's always got a shot to pull off a sub or something like that. DraftKings, FanDuel, it's going to be another. It's probably going to be another one lineup kind of deal, to be honest with you. Um, that's about all I got on that. It's another fight that I think, uh, like I said, pretty good chance to get a decision. Honestly, Perez by
Yeah.
decision. That's my pick.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I think that it's either a boring decision or that, like you said, somehow he catches a submission.
Yeah.
I mean, he is very good at submission. The issue is, like, when it comes to strikes, he throws 1.38 strikes per minute. 1.38. Like, I mean, a guy in a wheelchair can throw more than 1.38 strikes per minute. This guy just does not strike when it comes to fighting. Um, I mean, he's good at getting the fight to the ground for the most part. He's good at securing the submission and being a defensive fighter, but that's not something that you want on DraftKings. You don't, unless you're doing multiple GPP lineups where you're just hoping for being under the percentage owned and catching a flyer. I don't really see this as a fight that you would roster or a fight that you would bet on just because it's a complete toss up. Um, if you have multiple lineups, then I can see that. But I personally, even me playing, 20 lineups, I probably won't have more than one or two of each of these fighters, if that. Uh, it's not something that I really want a part of personally. So I mean, I would pick Perez, I think, by decision if I had to, but it's not something that I'm gonna bet on or something that I would suggest other people bet on. Uh, so the next fight we got here, I know this was a fight that initially, last week when we were talking about the fights, you told me that you had a lean for one of these fighters. I personally think the other way. But we got Charles Bird versus Mika Fatala. So I'll kick it to you because I know you had initially told me that you had a parlay bet on Saturday that you kind of liked
Yeah.
with one of the two fighters. But what's your thoughts on that, and what was your reasons for that?
Yeah. As I was logging the last week's bets, I put I think a little 3-leg parlay and maybe even a straight bet out on Charles Bird. Um, up against Maki Patolo. Maki went to decision against Kellen Potter last time out, and I was on Maki Patolo in that fight last time. And it didn't pan out well for him. Potter was able to take it to a decision and ultimately win the decision pretty convincingly. So, and maybe call it recency bias or what have you, but I mean, not many noticeable names on the record and kind of hit or miss record. I'm gonna have to go with Charles Bird on this one. Like I said, I haven't added any more bets or anything, but I had a straight bet and one leg of a 3-leg parlay last week. And in Bird's defense, the last guys he fought, Edmund Shabazian, lost elbows and punches round one. Darren Stewart, round two, right elbow. Both, guys that could happen, when you go in a fight against them. But like I said, I think Charles Burden. I actually think he's going to get it done by KO, TKO in the first round, possibly. At least, I'm a kind of a GPP player, so I'm going to be playing it as kind of my sneaky knockout play that it gets a lower percentage of the field.
Yeah, I mean, when the more that I looked at this fight, the more that I noticed that Bird seems to get rocked a lot. Um, He gets clipped a lot. He's now he granted he can get back up from some of those, but he does get rocked a lot. And Patalo, watching his fights, he does seem the last fight, like you said, admittedly he didn't look that great, but watching some of his earlier fights, he does seem to be a patient fighter. That when he can strike, that he can pack punch. I personally think that he could rock Bird. I personally have placed a bet on Patalo money line at plus. When I bet it, it was actually plus 145. It's plus 150 now, so it's actually gone up since I bet it. But I like him to beat Bird. I, I don't know what round. I think on Tapology I bet the second or the third, or I picked the second or the third. But if I had to take a bet here, I would take Patalo to win and pull up, the underdog bet in the upset. And I actually do like him via KO Tico at plus 315 as well, honestly. Like I said, Bird has shown that he can get rocked, and Patalo has shown that he can have knockout power. So if you're a prop better, I think that's personally one that I like. I have Patalo in my drafting cash lineup. I think he gets the job done personally.
Well, yeah, pretty well. Like I said, my thoughts on that one. It's not like I said, not going to be a huge. Uh, I haven't laid any more bets on it or whatever. Just the straight bet, the piece of the parlay, and he'll get, like I said, a DraftKings lineup to try and get the sneaky ownership percentage. But
Yeah.
like I said, either one's got a chance at the knockout for sure. Both their records are mixed. It's definitely a kind of a lean kind of fight, and stick to your lean, I guess, and don't overinvest.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think this fight is very much like the Gutierrez fight last week, where if you have a lean, go with it. Um, I wouldn't bet heavy on it. I probably wouldn't bet more than a unit on it. I think that's the max that I'm going to bet on it is that one unit at the plus 145, and fingers crossed it hits. And then, like I said, I have my cash lineup. But just from the tape I watched, I think he can get it done. I think he will get it done personally. Um, Next fight we got here. I know this was the second leg of the parlay that you had told me that you liked. We got Cody Stamen versus Brian Callahan. I'll be completely honest here. When you initially sent me that parlay, I thought you were already mine. I mean, this fight is a complete toss up for me, honestly. Callahan has shown that he just allows the shit to get beaten out of him. But then somehow he can turn it around and still win the fight, like he did, against in his last fight. He easily was losing that fight in the first round, and even in the second round, he didn't look that great. And then he, knocked him out. I personally am not going to bet this fight at all. Just I think it's too much of a toss up just for the type of the fighter that he is. But the simple fact is both of them throw 4 strikes per minute. For Callahan eats 6 strikes per minute. That type of damage, it's hit or miss. And Stamen is not the best striker in the world. I think that he very well could win. So it's just not a fight that I personally would want to bet on one way or the other. I think I'll have, a fair amount of either of these guys in GPP just due to the fact that he is low priced on drafting, as I believe he's 7,200, and he very well could get the finish. But betting wise, I don't see myself betting this fight.
Yeah, that's kind of I think Kelleher's my Burns of last week. To be honest with you, he's my gut pick of the week. I thought they lined this fight wrong to begin with. If I'm being honest, given Stamen's layoff, I mean, we can go through the record here for just a minute and pop off some names. You know what I mean? But we got even the losses. Hunter Azure, I'm big on still. I thought he had a good chance in that last fight. Honestly, it was a lean for me with Kelleher last time, but it paid off. Guy's a firecracker, man. He's another one that's always got a shot. O'Day Osborne was supposed to have a huge debut, got smoked. Yeah, lost by Darce choke to Montel Jackson. John Lineker, he went to the third round with 3:43 of the third round. Decision win against Renan Barao. Uh, Yuri Alcantara guillotined in the first round. Julio Arce beaten twice. I mean, so like I said, he's always got a shot. And at the plus 200, like I said, I had to take a stab at that as like my initial bets of like early bets of last week, and I'm sticking with it on Tapology. I got Kelleher by KO TKO round two. I think he's going to be able to defend the takedown, which is really all I see is Stamen's path to victory. If I'm being honest, not that he couldn't knock other guys out or whatever, but just kind of the way I see this fight going. And like I said, with the layoff and stuff, and Kelleher remaining active, and I'm sticking with my guns on Kelleher on this one, and I will be probably in all formats. Honestly, I'll go FanDuel, I'll go DraftKings with them. I'm fairly confident in it, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's happened before, but I think he's going to get it done again.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has the ability to. I think honestly, if you are that confident that he does get the KO TKO, the bet is honestly him winning via KO or TKO, because right now that's plus 505. I think that's more than likely. If he does win, it is by KO or TKO. I don't really think that he wins via decision, due to the fact that he gets hit with so many punches during his fights and so many strikes that that adds up over time. And if you go to the decision, more than likely the judges are going to lean the other way. So I mean, if you do bet it, I think that's probably the route to go, honestly. But something I personally like, not that he does get knocked out very often, but like I said, kind of that lean with like Gutierrez, the fact that he does eat so many strikes per minute, 6 strikes per minute he absorbs, those do add up over time, and he has shown a great chin. But Stamen to win by KO TKO at plus 775,
I think
that's
that's
something
probably
that I may have to throw at least a half a unit on, just for the simple fact that he eats so many strikes per minute that you know
But Stamen's not really the guy that throws 6 strikes per minute at him. He's more of the wrestling dominant, wrestling based kind of guy. As a matter of
right.
fact, if I'm being honest, Stamen's not really the guy that's even going to really throw a 3-piece at you. He's
I
usually
mean,
uses wrestling to lead to his takedowns, kind of a couple jabs on the way in, and he might have a power shot behind one. But like I said, probably 3 at most. And I think Stamen's the much more technical striker. And the
yeah.
other tool I think he's going to have in his bag in this is once again the guillotine threats, man. As Stamen looks for his takedown, I think that Kelleher is going to be looking for the neck.
Yeah, no, I definitely do agree. He's not a very heavy striker, but I mean, he does still throw an average to land 4 strikes per minute. Both fighters average at least 4 strikes per minute landed. So it's not that he doesn't land strikes. It's just when he does land them, they're generally not the strongest strikes. Like you said, they're these small jabs to set up takedown and stuff like that. So I mean, I wouldn't bet heavy on that, but at the simple fact that he does absorb so many strikes per minute, if you're a prop play person, I don't think that's the worst prop in the world, honestly. Um, so the next fight we got here, I'll kick it to you. I personally don't have a lean, honestly, one way or the other on this fight. But we got Ian Hansich versus Gerald Mershert,
Yeah,
aka GM3.
Gerald Mershart, Heinisch. I was high on Heinisch a few fights back when he was still relatively new. Like I said, sometimes I play fighters, especially as they're coming in new, a little bit like Baccarat, and if they get a lot of hype coming in, a lot of steam coming in, and there's merit to it, you do a little looking around and there's merit to it. I'll typically ride those fighters until they break, meaning, whether it's their debut they lose or whatever, I'll ride them till they break. Um, knowing how the UFC likes to see guys can put together little strings of victories in order to kind of bump them up to that next level of competition. Gerald Merchart's been in the game a long time. That's another guy that's got a serious submission threat. He thinks defensively, protects the hardware. I'm not sure many people would have put Gerald Merchart even going to the decision with Derek Brunson or Omari Akhmedov. Maybe more inclined to go with Omari Akhmedov, taking him to the decision, but certainly not a guy like Brunson that's got those kind of hands. Um, you know, I think. Sorry, I'm pulling over my Tapology page here. My picks. I'm going with the under the. I believe he is the underdog. Correct. Still. Yeah,
Right
Mershart.
now,
His line movement.
yeah, right now Mershard is the slight underdog, depending on the site that you bet. I mean, it's pretty much all even money, honestly, for the most part. You're getting a little bit of odds. Looks like he opened up at plus 115 right now. Most sites he's down to, anywhere from plus 110 to negative 105, depending on
Not
the
a ton of
site.
movement yet, though. Um, as far as
Yeah.
a prop goes, I definitely like that plus 375 on Merchart by submission. I mean, who who doesn't? If he wins, that's gonna be how. Um, like I said, we've seen Heinisch upset before as well in fights he was favored. I will be playing Merchart as an underdog in DraftKings for the salary relief as well, slash the possibility of the finish points. Same with FanDuel. Um, and yeah, that's about it. I'll probably be fading Heinisch if I'm being honest.
Yeah, same here. Honestly, we're basically the same exact way here. That looking at this fight, I kind of felt that it was going to be a fade for the most part. I do have Mershard in my cash lineup at this point, just simply because the salary fit. Honestly, like I said, around that price point for dogs, when I was looking at the DraftKings earlier this week, that I just couldn't find many dogs that I felt comfortable in. Um, and so you have to play some dogs in order to be able to put in those heavy the ones that you're going to feel comfortable in this card are very heavy price. You got Nunez at 9,400, O'Malley at 9,300, Stamen at 92 or 91. Menafield at 9,000. So they jacked up the prices for those big people that you have to put one or two dogs that you just may not be 100% sure about this week, honestly. Um, so that he's one of those people that I did pick that I wasn't 100% sure about, but I felt that he does have the chance to win. Both of the fighters do tend to go for the takedown, which I think could help Mershot, just for the simple fact that when if you take him down to the ground, that's not where you want to be with him, and that's what Ian is going to go for. It's the takedown. That's kind of his thing. So I felt that he could get submitted. I'm not going to bet it, just for the simple fact that I mean it's complete toss-up fight, and I don't really have a lean one way or the other. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting my money on this fight at all. Which is why I think the line is so close, just because no one feels comfortable about it, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, that's why I'm gonna actually make it part of my strategy this week to combine guys that we feel equally, like the Kelleher fight. You know what I mean? We can all admit that each man's got their path to victory, but I think combining my dog picks like Kelleher, my gut pick, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
guys like Burns, who people argue. You know, I've seen guys out there arguing a case for Dunham being their dog of the week. You know, so combining guys like Burns, like I said, Mershart, who's once again kind of a lean. It's totally possible that Heinisch could wrestle him to a decision and just
Yeah.
defend that submission. So Merchart, Kelleher, Burns, guys like that, all combined in one lineup, probably with that scary amount of salary left over on like DK and FanDuel or whatever. $1,500 left to spend or whatever will probably be one of my strategies. It's actually
Yeah.
one of those lineups that affords me Nunez, and man, I'll just let you go ahead and know. I mean, I think with everybody thinks Nunez is a lock, but I will be playing her in DFS heavy because she's was it was a Nunez pay-per-view event, like I said last week, that won me my first big tournament, 17,500 on the night. Killed it. Nunez in all formats for me. I don't think that Felicia Spencer. Well, we'll get to
Yeah,
that.
we'll get to that one, and I mean, and we can talk about that more. I personally had a hard time, at least in my cash lineup, fitting her in without going to people that I just didn't really feel very comfortable with at all. Um, but GPP, I probably will, yeah. But we'll get to that one, when that one comes, and we can talk about that one. The next fight is a fight that I absolutely love, honestly. Um, I have a very strong lean with this one, and the line has shown that it seems like a lot of people have this lean. So we got Alex Karasos versus Chase Hooper. I personally love Hooper. I think that he is a star in the making, and yeah, sure, he does have some holes in his game, but the kid is only 20 years old. He has shown that he's starting to come about from his contenders fight where he got the absolute shit beating out of him the first couple of rounds, and he still won that fight. I think he can take a shot, and I think that they're feeding him this guy just due to the fact that he's not the greatest of fighters. He doesn't have the best takedown defense. I think Hooper is going to be able to get him down to the ground. He can eat the shots from this guy and still be able to push through. And I think he'll be able to get him down to the ground eventually. I think he'll be able to ground and pound him probably to victory in either the first or second round. So I love Hooper this fight. I think that he, initially when I bet him, he was negative 155. He's jumped up to negative 175 now, and I bet him just 2 days ago. So, he's already jumping up. People are already getting on board with him. And I absolutely, he's one of my locks of the week, honestly. I may even add a little bit more on him at negative 175, or Hooper KO / TKO is plus 550. I think, I think he easily knocks him out. I be a ground and pound most likely. That I think that's what he's going to try to do. So I mean, I have him in my cash lineup. I have a bet on him. I think I may even have him in a parlay, and so I absolutely think he's the lock this week, personally.
I'm gonna have to totally agree with you on that. Very well nailed it. I think he's a lock for this week too. I think he all formats. I think DraftKings he's got the possibility to score a ton of points in takedowns and advances, possibly even some reversals in there because Caceres is he's a veteran, though he's not the best fighter ever. He's definitely a veteran. He's had UFC caliber fights and lots of them, put on good performances. For this level, you know what I mean. So I think that's the why they're feeding him to Hooper, if you will, to kind of put a guy that's semi legit. You know what I mean? Had plenty of UFC experience onto his record.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, he's definitely got the absolute. He got a shot at getting the ground and pound finish. You know, locking up a dominant top position and just kind of raining down punches. More likely until a TKO, I think. Caceres is fairly defensive and everything, but you know,
Yeah.
the punches keep raining down. The ref's going to call it. So I think TKO definitely has a shot. I have him on Tapology, or my gut pick initially at the beginning of the week was Hooper by decision. Um, I was unsure. I don't like to commit too heavy until I wait, and kind of land on my full decisions for the week or whatever. So initially, I knew it would be Hooper, or I feel very confident rather that it will be a Hooper win. It was just a matter of how. And as a matter of fact, now that we're here at this point in the week, I feel actually my pick has changed to Hooper by submission, round 2. I think. Um, yeah, I think Hooper submission round 2 from my initial gut pick of Hooper by decision. We've watching the betting lines. We've seen plenty of money come in on Hooper throughout the week, backing our pick, if you will. Like I said, I don't think we really need to waste much more time on it. I'll play him in all formats: DraftKings, FanDuel. He should score well. I feel like he's a lock. The line's still totally bettable. Probably even a parlay piece. Yeah, keep those little groupings of small 2 and 3 leg parlays if that's your thing.
Yeah, I mean, Hooper by submission, honestly, is a lot lower than I thought it was going to be. It's plus 170.
It's not bad.
So, I mean, I personally, I don't think I would bet that prop. Just the payoff isn't worth the risk that you're going to put personally. When I'm doing props and stuff like that, I like to get at least plus 200 odds just for especially the submission and the TKO and stuff like that, just because you're cutting off, half of the fight of how it could end. So I personally wouldn't bet the plus submission at via submission plus 170. I think if you're gonna go prop, like I said, you go the KO/TKO at plus 550 because that's just as good of a chance as the submission, in my opinion. I think that's a little bit high for how Hooper is shown to fight. But yeah, absolutely, the line I absolutely love at negative 175. So next we got Eddie Wineland versus Sean O'Malley. I'll kick this one to you, and you can let me know what you think about this one. I have a pretty strong lean on this one as well. I'm guessing it's the same way you do, just based on lines. But you can let me know what you think.
Yeah, I'm gonna go O'Malley on this one. Pretty confidently. I think they're kind of building the guy up. I think he's got a good enough following. Wineland, definitely a real contender. As a matter of fact, I think if there's any kind of big upset of the night, maybe not my pick, but definitely a chance. Wineland's got a chance, I would say. I'd say there's aspects of O'Malley's game that's still a little improving, but I don't think it's going to happen, man. And the odds don't indicate that obviously at all. It'll probably more than likely be O'Malley KO, TKO. And that's what I would recommend people play and back, whether it's DFS or on the lines.
Yeah, no, same here. I have O'Malley in my cash lineup. I wasn't able to go up to Nunez, just the money didn't work out, and the price value is about the same. I think O'Malley is 9,300, which is a little high for him, honestly, just due to the fact that in his past fights, most that he scored really is about 100 points. But just the money didn't work to go up to Nunez, unfortunately, in at least that lineup. And I feel confident that O'Malley should get at least 100, which, for cash is workable. I easily think that he's going to win this fight. I mean, Wineland, he's a vet, like you said. He's been in some absolute wars. Both of them like to, strike and stuff like that, and just have been more so. Wineland has been in some absolute battles. But you know, uh, Wineland, his best course of action, honestly, I think would be to try for the takedown. Now, I don't think that's what he's gonna do. Just that's not the type of fighter that he really is. But O'Malley, as you mentioned, his one hole in his game, honestly, from what I have seen, is his takedown defense. His takedown defense is only 61%. So, almost half the time the other fighter is able to get him down to the ground. So I think that is one hole that he does need to patch up before he goes to that next level. But I think this kid is an absolute stud. He is, a star in the making, and UFC is pushing him that way, and the odds are showing that. Um, I wouldn't bet it straight up. Just the juice is way too high to bet him straight up right now. He's actually gone up to negative 500. He was negative 450 when I looked the other day. So, he's jumping up left and right. I have him in a couple parlays, and I feel comfortable about that. Also him via KO TKO at negative 115 isn't a bad bet. But at the same time, like I said, when you're doing those props and stuff like that, I tend to like more so around the plus 200 mark for those type of props. I think that is how he wins, but when you're laying juice on a chance and leaving the decision as well as the submission victory out there, I personally don't like laying juice on that, so I probably wouldn't bet on that prop. But I could understand if you did want to go with that, with the fairly good odds, and that is more than likely the way that he does win this fight.
Yeah, for sure.
Next, we got Neil Magny versus Anthony Martin. I mean, this is another one of those fights that I just see me almost completely fading. I just neither of the fighters really do much for me at all, honestly. Both fighters do go for a fair amount of takedowns per fight. Neither of the fighters throw many strikes per fight. Both of them throw under 3 strikes per minute. So, I mean, it's just it's not a fight that I personally see me wanting to bet at all. If I did have to go the DFS route, I think I would probably go Martin, just because I think he does have the chance to possibly submit Magny, because Magny has lost 4 fights via submission, so he has shown in the past that he can have issues with fighters that do try to go for the submission. So I think in GPP I would maybe have a couple Martin lineups. I don't see me having any Magny or very much Magny at all personally. And bet wise, I don't see me betting this fight. If I did, or if I had to suggest something, I'd probably do Martin via sub, just because I think that's his chance to win. But I wouldn't feel confident in really betting in it. I mean, it's plus 580, so you're getting great odds. But I don't have a strong enough lean like I did, last week. Again in that Elliott fight where I felt like, that was the way that he was going to lose, and so I had a strong lean about that and giving up plus 300 odds. I don't really have that in this fight, so it's almost going to be complete fade for me on this one.
Yeah, I'm pretty well totally with you on that one, actually. I was going to say that of the underdogs on the night, and this kind of deal where, if backed into a corner where you have to make a lineup or whatever, Martin was going to be the second lowest I would probably go on the DK salary, the other being Kelleher. I don't see any other guys that interest me anywhere in that price range, if I'm being honest. and your next guy up would be Merchart. I agree with you on the possible. I was just looking. It looks like that they had a plus 1,000 prop for Martin by sub. But either way, I agree that Martin does have, either of them, the chance probably at the finish. Black belt and BJJ. I mean, both are, but I just kind of saw it the same way as you. If anyone's got the shot at the finish, I think Martin's youth and aggressiveness, especially kind of being hit or miss lately, get him back in the eyes of the UFC matchmakers and stuff. That's probably what I'd do as well. On Tapology, I do have Martin by decision. Maybe a little contentious. Would either way, Martin by decision is my pick. I totally agree with you. I probably won't. It'll be like a one lineup kind of dog pick for salary relief, and I probably won't touch him on the lines or anywhere else. So yeah, I'm in complete concurrence with you on that one.
Yeah, and I mean, personally, I mean, I know you like Bird in that fight, but I like Patalo a lot better when it comes to the salary on DraftKings. Martin is 7,500, Patalo is 7,400. Um, I mean, when it comes to GPP, I'll probably have a little bit of both. But when it comes to if I had to pick one of those two around that price range, I did look at Kelleher as well, but I landed on Patalo at 7,400 as my main dog that I think I'm going to go with.
Yeah, it's not bad. I have a decent amount of ownership of the two.
Yeah. All right. So the next fight we got here. Honestly, many people from what I hear are calling this honestly the main event of the card. And I gotta agree, it is a very intriguing fight. Uh, just for the complete differentiate between the two fighters. So we got Corey Sandhagen versus Manji Sterling. I will be upfront. I absolutely hate the way Sterling fights. He bores the ever living daylights out of me. He is a very defensive fighter, which don't get me wrong is not a bad way to fight. It makes it for a boring fight. He gets the wins, but he's not a guy that I ever really root for or that I ever really want on DraftKings much, just for the simple fact that yeah, he does throw about 3 to 4 strikes per minute, but he's more so a defensive fighter. The guy only gives up. Let's see. Did I put how much? Yeah, I didn't put. Yeah, sorry. Absorbs 1.45 strikes per minute. So he absorbs less than 2 strikes per minute. Now, the unique thing here about this is Sandhagen throws and lands 8.89 strikes per minute. Almost 9 strikes per minute this guy lands. So something is going to give in this fight. It's just a matter of what. Now, I don't think Sterling has fought someone like Sandhagen, who is going to throw this much and this often. So will he be able to defend against this type of fighter is the big question, and what everyone I think is excited about. I personally have Sandhagen in this fight. I don't know if I would bet his money line, but I think he throws enough that he doesn't actually finish Sterling, because I think Sterling's defense will be good enough to not get finished. But I think he does throw enough, and Sterling does absorb enough strikes that Sandhagen does win by decision. So personally, this fight, I really do like the Sandhagen wins by decision at plus 179. Getting those type of odds when I think that there is a very good chance that this fight does go to decision. And think that's a pretty good bet personally, and what I'm gonna probably roll with. Uh, for DFS, I have Sanhagen in my cash lineup right now. I'm a little bit hesitant about it, but I think that he'll be able to throw enough strikes and land enough strikes that he could win via decision and get 70 to 80 points. Um, but that's personally what I think. What about you?
I'm on the other side of this one, man. This is anyone's fight, though. This is a well matched fight. These are two guys that everybody's been kind of, I guess everybody uses the term ducking or whatever. Nobody wants to sign that contract against these guys. It's not advantageous to their careers, whether it's a business move or not wanting to get the shit kicked out of you or whatever. You know what I mean? But these two guys, they'll put it on you. Don't nobody want them. So I think it was cool they matched them up together. I'm right there with you. I'm a big Corey Sandhagen fan. Big, tall, lanky dude. You know what I mean? Puts the pace on people. He's relentless. We've seen people try and break his fucking arm. We've the guy won't tap. You know what I mean? And I like that in a fighter, a guy that's relentless. You know what I mean? He'll take that broken arm and beat you with it. Aljamain Sterling, like you said, awesome defensive fighter. He's got a way of looking offensive while being defensive too, which I think wins him favor in the eyes of the judges. If I'm being honest, he's a good strategic fighter. I think also Aljamain Sterling has the wrestling advantage in this fight. Not to say that it won't look like to the judges that Sandhagen came out on top of a wrestling scramble, but I'm thinking the one initiating the wrestling scrambles and possibly even getting the takedown until a reversal or a position change will be Sterling. These events are taking place still inside the empty arena, yeah? The Apex, is that right?
Yeah, they are still taking place.
So
As
we
far
got
as I
that.
know, they are still using the smaller cage as well.
We got that to take into account too. I think with Aljo having the wrestling advantage, you know what I mean. Sandhagen's usually got plenty of room to dance around and keep pumping that jab and stuff. And like I said, he does great in exchanges. He's a submission threat as well. But I just see it being Aljo's night. I think with the lack of an audience there, the Sandhagen fans kind of cheering him on when he breaks free of an exchange of grappling, whether it's a grappling exchange or whatever. I just feel like it's Aljo's experience against UFC talent and the guys that he's faced lately. I mean, he's no stranger to a challenge. Not that I agree with you that he's never faced a guy quite like this, though. But the guys that he's faced, you know what I mean, will more than prepare you for a lot of what people can throw at you. I mean, to be honest with you, I thought that, and it was on Pedro Munoz in the last fight to beat Aljamain Sterling, to edge him out. I thought, but I was wrong. You know what I mean? And even Jimmy Rivera, I remember having to put some tape study into that fight and thinking that Rivera had a chance. Once again, I was wrong. Cody Stamen, I think he's great. We got him going at it again on this card, but also taken down by Aljamain Sterling, Brett Johns, Renan Barao. Like I said, I could see an argument for either side of the fight. I think we both kind of see the fight playing out the same way. Surely there'll be some scrambles, like I said, and boxing exchanges. I think like Sandhagen has the reach for sure, but Aljo's got a way of kind of working his way in with what would be his reach and his low leg kicks. He pops those low kicks out a lot, man. And I mean, you don't even have to be a skinny guy to feel those low leg kicks. I don't know anybody that's just got like beefed out ankles. You know what I mean? So that we may see that immobilize Sandhagen a hair. I think the ankle kicks and the low calf kicks combined with the slight wrestling advantage. You know what I mean? We'll see, though. That was one I had to put a lot of work into, man, because I could have gone very well either way. I still think I'm not big into the stack on DK, but that might be a fight I'd stack right there. I think there's a good chance it could go to decision and have enough grappling exchanges. Is why I say those reversals at 3 points and advances at 3 points. There'll be punches in there as well, but
I don't
That's
know
all
if
I got
I'd
for you.
stack this fight at all personally. I don't think there's honestly a fight on this card that I would stack. It's not like the last couple cards where there was one or two fights that I would consider. Um, just I personally wouldn't stack this fight. I don't think there'll be enough strikes thrown in order to have each fighter get you that 100 or so that you would need in order to take down a GPP. But if you had to place a bet on it, what do you think you would place?
If I had to place a bet on this fight, man, like I said, I'm such a fan of both of these guys, and it's so hard to even come up with picking a side in the first place. I'd probably maybe for it to go. You know what? Um, what do we got here? Hmm. Man, I don't know. Maybe to go to decision if backed into a corner. It's one I'll be really honestly watching more as a fan, and like I said, to see who racks up the DraftKings points. I'm
Yeah,
not as concerned with a bet on it, especially not being hyper confident. I mean, I think it'll be Aljo by decision. Like I said, I know that with Sandhagen having the following he does and everything, yeah, I know how Vegas can be sometimes with two fighter. Well, I feel like Aljo's honestly a little underrated. Doesn't quite have like the initial backing. You know what I mean? He's kind of had to work for the backing that he has, and Sandhagen's had plenty of people backing him since his first couple fights. So I think it's a fight where, once again, could go to decision. If going to a decision, it could be you could argue for it either fighter's way, and I feel like a lot of times, like in fights like that, Vegas will be inclined to take the money. And who's the money? Oh, actually, it looked from earlier in the week when I was
it's
watching.
a pretty even fight, honestly. It looks like it initially opened at let's see,
No,
it initially opened completely dead even, -110 each.
yeah, it
And
looks like
that's about what it is right now. Sterling's a little bit higher on some websites. Um,
most of the money's in on Sandhagen's of the two fighters. So yeah, that kind of backs what I was just saying there with the money being on Sandhagen. If it's not a convincing sort of a decision, which I think it'll go to at least, I think it's the kind of deal where they could give it to Alja, who I think has the wrestling advantage in this fight.
understandable. All right, so the next fight we got here, we got Rafael Asunko versus Cody Garbrandt. Um, I'll kick this one to you, and what do you think about this one?
Man, Rafael Sunsao versus Cody Garbrandt. Rafael Sunsao's a veteran, man. Another BJJ guy. He's got hands too, but it's never been a real focus. Everybody kind of knows him for his BJJ. As a fighter in fight age 37, he's getting up there a little bit on a 2-fight losing skid against our very own Corey Sandhagen, who we just talked about, and Marlon Moraes, two guys that are no joke. Just before that, he had beaten Rob Font, Matthew Lopez, and Marlon Moraes. And so that was a rubber match and a win over Aljamain Sterling there. So, yeah, I mean, Rafael Sunsal's been in it a while. Always got a shot at pulling something out the bag. But however, I don't think it's going to go down that way in this fight tonight. I think Cody's been waiting to make his comeback for a while now. Man, that fight with Dominic Cruz, in my opinion, that was one to go down in the record books. That was just an awesome fight to watch. Some of the defensive work by Garbrandt, oh man, it's just really, really good stuff. You know what I mean? The way he's moving his forearms to deflect and punches to throw his own counters and stuff. It was a thing of beauty, that fight. And like I said, he's been trying to make a comeback for a while now, and I believe there's been some injury issues or whatever. A couple things have sidelined him. But if if Cody doesn't come out and look for the kill, I think Asuncao has got a decent shot at taking the decision, but I don't really see that happening at all. I think Cody's, like I said, with the long layoff and the kind of fighter he is, and he wants to make that bonus money. You know what I'm saying? He's going for that knockout. So I think we will see him come out charging like a bull and just swinging until Sunsao goes down. Another deal where even if Sunsao goes down to his back, you know, to where he's somewhat in his realm, BJJ. Once again, in the eyes of the judge, who's right there in the ring with him, even if he's covered up and Garbrandt doesn't stop raining down the punches, I think it's a deal where we can see the TKO victory. I think Garbrandt's worth at least one lineup in GPPs. It's not, once again, it's not anything I'd go investing stupid heavy in. It's just kind of that's my thoughts on the fight. Like I said, with the layoff and stuff, I'm a little reluctant to be like, yeah, go ahead and throw a couple of units at Garbrandt. So, and you know, we in his last fight, you know, we've seen him rocked. So it'll only take
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I admittedly have been burned by Garbrandt, especially his last fight. I felt that he had to win that fight, and that he would come back and he would be able to do what he needed to do. I'm kind of the same way here, but the thing is, he needs to fight smart. So I know you said that you think he's gonna rush in and bull rush it and knock him out. I think that's the exact opposite thing that he needs to do. I think if he does that, that's been his issue these last couple fights is that he does bull rush. He rocks them, and he does the Justin Gaethje or what Justin Gaethje used to do, and he runs in and he stops defending, and he gets his ass rocked. And so, I mean, I think he needs to be a combination of what he did in that Cruz fight versus with the kill, combined with the killer instinct. I think he does have the power that he could very well rock someone and wait a round or two and then knock them out with the have those strikes kind of wear down on that person. That's what I think he's going to do in this fight personally, or at least what I hope he does in this fight. I think he has to win this fight. If he loses this fight, that would be his fourth fight that he would have lost in a row. Now, granted, yes, they've been against some of the top opponents in that division.
Right.
But still, you can only take so many losses before UFC starts, not really having as much faith in you.
Yeah.
Not that I think that his career would be over, but I could very well see them not really seeing him as a main event fighter anymore. We've seen other big name fighters, lose 4 or 5 fights in a row, and UFC says bye. You can go to Bellator. So I think he needs to win this fight. I think that he does fight a little bit smarter this fight, and I personally I do have him in my cash lineup right now because I do think that he does score the knockout. I think he probably scores it in late second, early third, personally. So I do like him. And initially I was the complete opposite way because initially I saw Cody Garbrandt and I thought, oh, well, this is going to be the idiot that's going to bum rush again and get clipped. And so initially I was going to bet against Garbrandt, honestly. And then the more that I looked into it, the more that I looked into the fighter that Rafael was, he's just not a very strong striker. He's not horrible, but he's not honestly the type of striker that's going to knock Cody out, I don't think.
He's not striking, he doesn't have the range. He's got a little shorter arms, you know what I mean? Like I said, pretty stocky for his build or whatever, but definitely BJJ dominant. He's not scared to throw the kicks out there or whatever, but like I said, Cody's just too fast. I think.
Yeah,
I don't think we're going to see many of the strikes honestly landing. I think Assunção would be wise to just kind of look for the single power counters. Being it fits his build. You know what I mean? Wait, Garbrandt isn't scared. Garbrandt will work his way into the pocket eventually, and just kind of look for the smart counters slash the
right.
takedowns would be Assunção's path to victory. But like I said, kind of like your fear. I fear slash think that Cody will come out bull rushing again this time. Just this time, I think it's gonna benefit him.
Yeah, I mean it's benefited him sometimes in the past. Before he started fighting Cruz, before he fought Dillashaw,
Yeah, Dillashaw
stuff like
threw a
that.
lot of emotion into, so it's hard to kind of put a ton of weight on that one. I mean, they did it twice. They ran it back twice, or ran it back once.
Granted, what wasn't a Dillashaw that was on performance enhancing of some sort.
For sure, and as a matter of fact, at the end of that first round, it was looking like Dillashaw was about to get.
Right,
I mean, he was at the edge of consciousness himself, and came back and pulled it off. So
right.
let's not forget that either. Yeah, at the end of that first round against Dillashaw, what bad a shape Garbrandt had Dillashaw in. You know what I mean? So, like I said, the guy can put him down.
Yeah, I mean the guy has some of the best power in the UFC, honestly. But
His technique, it's his boxing technique, working with his uncle all those years.
yeah, he personally, he needs to smarten up a little bit, and I mean, I hope it's in him, but I'm a little bit worried that that's just his personality, that he wants to go for the knockout. And the second that he sees someone rocked, he's gonna rush in. And
Yeah,
some fighters that may not hurt him, but other fighters, it makes you easily get clipped when you're dropping your hands. So I mean, we'll see. I'm not gonna go heavy on him. Um, I think he will be highly owned in GPP, honestly, just due to his name fact. And his salary isn't too bad. I think it's 8,600. Um, Personally, I like Hooper a lot more in that price range than I do Garbrandt. Hooper being 8,500,
for sure.
but I think Garbrandt will be very highly owned. One, due to his name value, and two, due to the fact that he has knocked out some people before. So, but we'll see. I have a small bet now on Garbrandt, negative 149. So that's probably all I'll bet it, though. It's just that one bet, and see how it goes. Just because I don't feel confident, and it's just a 1 unit bet. I don't feel confident going very heavy on Cody.
It's that kind of card. The few locks or whatever confident plays that we have are extremely confident, even as to the manner in which they will probably get it done. But the rest of the card really is, like I said, they've been doing this lately. It's weird matchmaking. You know what I mean? To kind of remind you how fighting works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can catch these weird matchups with guys that you would never think in a million years they'd even put these guys up against, and the underdog comes out with a victory. It's that kind of stuff that really puts you back to the drawing board and kind of confuses you on the next slates and makes lining fights. You know what I mean? It's what makes it what it is.
Yeah, there's honestly only one or two lines that I really feel 100% confident on this card.
Yeah.
Hooper, and then actually there's one line in the main event that I really like.
Cool.
Which now that we're at that main event, we can talk about it a little bit. So I know you're very excited about this fight because, as you said, Nunez was the one that won you that big one, and so we got Amanda Nunez versus Felicia Spencer. I'll kick this one to you, and then I'll close it out with what honestly is maybe my favorite bet of this card. So what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I'm going Nunez for sure. I mean, I think she's the best for a while. You know what I mean? A while to come. All formats, man. like I said, with her being at the top price tag, I haven't hopped on FanDuel yet, but with her being the top price tag on DraftKings, I was squeezing her in because I knew that with the other guys just below her, that plenty of people would be taking some of that other top action, especially the guys like Sean O'Malley. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to want a piece of that. Uh, so yeah, I'm going to stick with Nunez. And the reason being, man, like I said, I just have a feeling, man, again that it's going to be. I'm probably going to put her in every lineup. I just have a feeling she's gonna pay off well. I have a to back that up. Basically, I feel like Spencer's tough man. I think she can take a beating, and I think that's what she's gonna do. I think that's what she's here to do in this fight. She has a fighter's chance at getting a submission, and we've seen Nunez rocked before. You know what I mean? But once again, that's a puncher's chance and a fighter's chance, even at the submission, and that's her forte. So I'm gonna be Nunez in all formats. I think Felicia Spencer's tough enough though that we might see one of these deals where trying to remember who it was against Chris Cyborg that took such a beating where we were like, good Lord, throw in the towel. But I think it's going to be one of those kind of fights where it's going to, maybe we get into the second round, maybe we get into that third round, and Spencer's going to be pretty bloodied up if Nunez doesn't just spare. If she can stay conscious, she'll be bloodied up. And also, if Nunez doesn't spare the submission, if she buckles to her knees even for a second, one of those exchanges, I mean, we'll see. I think Nunez knows she's dominant enough in this fight that she could have either way, the submission or the TKO. But I think she'll throw those hands as long as Spencer's is willing to receive them. But as far as a bet goes, we got Nunez TKO minus 135. I doesn't get much better of a straight bet than that for me. If you want something that you want to throw some capital at, you know what I mean. If I find a confident enough straight bet, I don't believe in these like 10 unit max bets or whatever.
Right.
It's I bet. Yeah, I wait. I sat and wait. Like I said, Nunez cards like this, I capitalize. I'll throw $100 bet at Nunez, and you know what I mean. Especially at 135. Hell, I'll throw $200 at it. It's like I said, it's picking your moments or whatever. Because I don't do any of these max bets or whatever, but that's something where I think that would buy me some capital for the next couple of events to have plenty left over to play with for the next couple of events on stuff that I'm less confident on. Lower, my unit is just a $10 unit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah, it's kind of deal where I'll invest heavier on something like this to make ends meet on the next cards, if you will. Give myself the room to play around.
Makes sense. Yeah, my unit is 25.
Right.
And I mean, most bets I'll probably do 1 or 2 units max.
Yeah.
I generally don't go over 2 units unless I'm very, very, you know, sure about the fight, or if I get too drunk and then live bet it, which kind of did happen with the Woodley fight. My buddies ended up posting all of their Woodley bets right before the fight, and I ended up putting a 5 unit bet on Woodley, which didn't obviously go good. But personally, I mean, I'm kind of the same way you are, Nunez. Absolutely, I think she wins this fight. Spencer has shown that she can take a beating. She's fought against some of those better striking fighters like Cyborg, like Megan Anderson. Some of the better strikers in the division, and has either came out on top or was able to survive. I don't think she wins. I personally won't bet the money line on Nunez because it's just too high. I may put her in as a parlay piece, but I'm a little bit hesitant about that just because she's not going to add much to the parlay. And I have been burned with that type of stuff before. It was actually the Connor Cerrone card where I think it was Barber. Barber was like negative 800 or 1,000, something like that. And so I just threw her in a parlay with Connor because I was very sure that Connor was going to win, just to bring the odds down a little bit. And obviously, Barber ended up losing, which cost me that parlay. So I'm a little bit hesitant to do that too heavy. Um, Honestly, the bet that I was talking about that I really love is is what is it? Fight over 1.5 rounds.
To last 1.5 rounds.
To go over 1.5, yeah.
Yeah, that coincides with what I had seen or
Yeah,
had to say about the fight. I think that Felicia Spencer is durable enough to take that beating for at least that. So I think that's a pretty sound bet. Like I
yeah,
said, I feel like Spencer, honestly, if I'm being real honest, and I know it's kind of like a rude subject to talk about a woman's weight and stuff, but if I'm being honest, I feel like they've put Spencer at this 145-pound division in the first place, knowing that there's huge holes as far as their roster goes. It was her quick spot to the spotlight, regardless of whether or not she's taking a beating. You know what I mean? She's
yeah.
in the main event now. You know what I mean? Now she should and probably will drop down to at least 135 and probably do quite well.
Yeah, I mean, I think eventually, honestly, Spencer will be a champion. I think that's what they're breeding her to be.
Yeah, I think she's
It,
the next most girls on the roster, especially at like 135.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, I do think eventually she will be a champion. On what weight class, I'm not 100% sure whether at 145 or 135. Um, I just don't think that time is now. I think that she will be able to survive the beating enough that it will get to probably at least the second or third round. Right now, I believe I have Nunez via KO. I think I did either the third or fourth round on Tapology. I think that Spencer has shown that she can take those punches via heavy hitters like Cyborg. And granted, yes, Nunez did knock out Cyborg, but I also don't think Cyborg really wanted to be in that fight. She was done with the UFC at that point. She knew that was the last fight of her contract, and she was tired of Dana, and just didn't care about that fight at all. So I don't really weigh too much into that fight personally. Um, So yeah, the bet that I really like it's Nunez. The fight to go at least 1.5 rounds. It started at -155 when I bet it, and I threw 2 units on it at that point, and it's up to -190 now. So it's considerably jumped since I bet it the other day. Um, So yeah, that's the bet that I like. I also do like fight starts round two at -265. Yeah, Nunez has shown that she can, get that first round finish. Um, but I think Spencer has shown that she can last. So -265. I think that's a pretty good bet as well to last the first round. Um, those are the two bets I like. Obviously, I love Nunez on DraftKings. The issue that I was having, at least with the cash game, is that if I did pick her, that meant that I had to go down to Callagher or someone like that in my cash lineup. So personally, in my cash lineup, I didn't go with that, just because I felt that O'Malley had just as good of a chance of getting at least 100 points as Nunez, and it made it that way I didn't have to go down to a Callagher type. Um, but for GPP, I'll probably have, like I said, I normally make about 20 lineups, and I'll probably have, I'd say, at least 10 Nunez. I'll probably have at least 50%. I don't like going more than like 50 or 60% just due to the fact that, anything can happen in MMA. Um, but I'll probably have at least 50 or 60%. So I mean that's all the fights here. So if you had to pick one bet, your top bet, I've obviously said what I feel my top bet is. My top two bets, honestly, are Hooper money line and Nunez fight to go at least 1.5 rounds. I have 2+ units on both of those bets. But what would you say is your top bet if you had to pick one that you're putting 2, 3, 4 units on?
Um, I like Nunez. I minus 175. Herbert Burns money line. I like. I still like Chase Hooper. What's he at a money line?
Now he is at, I think, negative 175 or something
I
like
still like.
that.
I still like him at minus 170. I probably call it with those three.
Yeah,
Like I said, I mean, more of a lean than anything, but I still think there's value on Charles Bird as well.
gotcha. All right, man. Well, I mean, another great podcast here. Hopefully, we make some people some money and some people listen to some of those bets that we told them about. Unfortunately, not those huge prop bets that we had last time, like the plus 1,000 and stuff like that. But hopefully people made money off of those props that we gave them and those bets that we gave them.
Man,
I know your lineup's cash,
a lot of
so
awesome advice given out for free last week, man. Everybody needs to hop on board while it's free because the train ain't stopping for sure. Well, I mean, I don't know how long you've been doing this, but I've been doing this at least 3 years, with my own capital and serious, you know what I mean? Keeping up with all these other guys that are equally serious. So, like I said,
for
hop
sure.
on now while the advice is free because sooner or later, guess what? $5 subscription, $10 a subscription, whatever. You know the game. You know what I mean.
Yeah,
You're gonna
absolutely.
have to pay the fee to add us to your bank of analytics and draw your averages
Absolutely, but we're worth it. So
for sure.
for now it'll be free, and we'll make you guys some money. We'll make us some money, and yeah. So definitely follow me at RSCMMA89. Follow you at what's your handle?
KODAMARENKSE.
All right, yeah. So go ahead, follow us. Also follow us at the Fight Forecast, or check out that YouTube channel, Instagram, all that stuff. We're all on there. And if you like what you hear, like what you see, certainly hit either one of us up, and we'll get you added to that Discord chat. We're putting all our bets here, all our lineups here, answering questions on there. So definitely hit us up, and yeah, let's make some money, guys.
Right on.